Okay, so hey guys, and welcome to the next part in the F1 Manager Minardi Manager Career Mode, where we're going to be at the Canadian Grand Prix, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, my favourite track in the F1 calendar. I love the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, it's such a beautiful track. But that is it a week away, 2 weeks away? 2 in-game weeks away. Okay, so we got to find out what news there is going to be between now and then. And straight away, literally seconds after I click continue, we got a statement from Benetton. Patrick Head is their technical director. Oh, they're retaining the services, so they've already got Patrick Head. They're going to keep Patrick Head as their technical director. That's a good, that's a good person to have in the team. Patrick Head, in the game, I believe, is the third best technical director. Plus, well, is Patrick Head. He's been in the sport for a long time. He's a valuable asset to have in the team. So, that's good that Benetton are able to keep him at least. Right, and again we got some more news. We got some sponsorship news here, but we got a statement from Ferrari keeping Adrian Newey as their technical director. That's been interesting. Ever since the start of the series, Ferrari have always ditched Ross Brawn and they've kept Adrian Newey. So Adrian Newey, who obviously started at McLaren, as you can see in the picture, has always, every year, signed with Ferrari. So, sure, Adrian Newey's the joint best technical director, but Ferrari decided to ditch Ross Brawn in favour of Adrian Newey, even before we got Ross Brawn, so there you go. Well, that's always an odd one to see, I think, for people watching. It's always an odd one to see Adrian Newey at Ferrari. Then we got a statement from Stewart. Damon Hill's still going to be their driver number 1. Okay, so as we've seen, Damon Hill is his career in ever since this series has started, so 99 onwards, has wavered a bit. He hasn't really done anything outstanding, I think, this entire series. Obviously, he was our driver last year, and he was okay, but clearly Stewart think he's good enough to keep him on for an extra year. And then components deal for Prost. They're going to be using Peugeot engines, right? Now, this is the funny one, because Prost had Peugeot engines, then decided to get Ford Zetec engines, which not only are they not French, they're also slightly worse. So, it was a weird signing, but now Prost have eventually come to their senses and decided to go back to Prost. So, a slight improvement for Prost there, but not a massive improvement for them. And that's it. Right, so we got a couple of rumours here. Magneti and Marelli's a rumour for Ferrari, and James Hawkins. Now, remember, this is the guy who was rumoured to be the Ferrari number 2 driver for the 2000 season, but instead it went to Neil McEwen. But James Hawkins was rumoured to be going to Ferrari. He's now rumoured to be going to BAR, so we may finally see James Hawkins in F1. It's been a long time coming, but we have got confirmation. Sauber have decided to announce Minardi as their driver 2. As we've seen this series, Minardi has not been that quick of a driver. Obviously, I think I said it in the last video, but I do have massive respect for Minardi in real life. But the year that this game's set, and how shocking he's been this entire series, I don't know why a team would want to sign him. But Sauber want him, driver number 2. And that says a lot for a guy who was originally the Williams driver number 1. Statement from Arrows. Okay, so Arrows announced a lot last episode. What have they got to say this time? Mazzacane is going to still be their test driver. So I think Mazzacane, ever since he left us at the end of 99, has always been Arrows' test driver. I guess he's by no means the worst test driver you could get. You could get an EA employee as a test driver, but there's nothing too bad about Mazzacane, and at Arrows I think it's a fairly reasonable place for him to be honest. More news. Every single day there's been news. Jeez. Components deal for Sauber, Visteon Electronics, so that's not a good electronics deal. It's not Magneti Marelli, so it's not a good electronics deal there. But here's the thing now, McLaren components deal. Now, it's said a few days ago that McLaren are rumoured to be keeping Ford Zetec engines. Now, that would be stupid. Ron Dennis made the decision in '99 to ditch Mercedes-Benz engines and go for Ford Zetec engines, which, I mean, not only is it uncharacteristic for him, he's said in the press quite recently actually how you can't win with a customer engine. That hence why he's going for Honda engines in real life F1 at the moment. So why he would want to have Ford Zetec engines when there's other teams using Ford Zetecs is beyond me. So has he finally come to his senses 2 years later? I'm sure he has. He hasn't. Ron Dennis still hasn't come to his senses. So he still decided to get the worst engines he could for the 3rd year running and at a cost of 22.8 million. That's the most expensive engine contract this entire series, and it's for the worst engines you can get. Okay, so we got more rumours here. We got Olivier Panis is rumoured to be going to Stewart. Don't know what role that could be. Test driver, he's been a test driver for McLaren this series, so that'd be an interesting one to see if he does go to Stewart. Jordan confirms Pedro Diniz as their test driver. I thought that was going to be a slightly odd one, getting him as one of their race drivers, but a test driver, actually, that's quite a decent test driver for Jordan, because obviously Pedro Diniz was a former race driver for Sauber, and having a former race driver as a test driver is always quite good. It puts you at a massive advantage. And obviously Johnny Herbert was their test driver, now he's a race driver, I think he's confirmed to be, and so they've replaced Herbert with Diniz. And then we got new components still for Ferrari, Magneti and Marelli electronics. Obviously they're going to go for Magneti and Marelli because they're the best electronics in the game, and they're Italian as well, so of course Ferrari are going to go for them. Okay, so we have got some confirmations here. Now Williams have confirmed Ross Brawn, and as I don't know whether I confirmed it earlier on, but I definitely rumoured it and hinted at it. We've had to get rid of Ross Brawn as our technical director. I mean, it's part of the cost-cutting measure. Ross Brawn, $2.5 million he's going to be getting next year. That's a lot of money, and so we've had to get rid of Ross Brawn, unfortunately. Plus also, ever since we've had Ross Brawn at the team, we've had a suspicious amount of car failures. So maybe it's a good thing Ross Brawn's going, but I consider Ross Brawn to be one of the best people ever in Formula 1, so I don't know. But Williams, he's found a home at Williams, and of course Ross Brawn wasn't going to leave the sport forever. Of course he wasn't. He's too good for that. But anyway, and then we got the other end of the scale. Williams confirming the joint best technical director. No, Williams confirming the joint best technical director. Jordan have now confirmed the worst chief designer. Apart from the EA employees, Andrew Green is the worst chief designer in the game. Now, he's crippled Prost this year because Prost had him. Well, the chassis that Prost are using this year is an Andrew Green chassis, and it's the worst one on the grid. So Jordan, they're going to be really going downhill. They've got the second best chassis on the grid this year, but next year, no, not next year. Well, next year they're going to have a downgraded chassis, and then the year after, once they got Andrew Green, they're going to have the worst chassis on the grid, unless a team signs an EA employee as their chief designer, which, well, we haven't seen this entire series, so I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, following on from that, so Ross Brawn, he's just sent us an email confirming that he is leaving the Minardi team, and he says he'd like to thank us for the opportunity. Well, I'm glad to see he enjoys working here for how long has he been there for? 6 months. Glad to see he enjoyed it. Well, obviously he's still got the rest of the year with us. But we got new front wings and rear wings, the 5th model already, so Neil Oatley. Even though there's some suspicion that it might be his super duper chassis that might be causing these car failures, at least he's developing a brilliant chassis and brilliant aero parts. It might be his rapid development of these parts, which means reliability isn't great, but the speed we're getting is phenomenal. And more news this episode. We've had so much news this episode. Eddie Irvine is rumoured to be staying at McLaren next year. But what about BAR? What have they announced? Gavin Fisher is their chief designer, and they're retaining the services of Gavin Fisher, crucially. So, Gavin Fisher, I believe, is the 4th best chief designer in the game. Originally at Williams, I believe he's the 4th best chief designer in the game. And that's very good. So that means BAR are still going to have a good chassis for the next few years, and they're still going to have a good aero package next year. So actually BAR, in the long term, are actually looking quite strong. Okay, we've got some more news, and I think this is the day before the race, so finally we'll be able to clear all this news. Now, Benetton confirms David Warren as their commercial manager. Now, obviously, this is the same David Warren who I've joked about in the past, about this guy in the background. But not focus. I always focus on him. I always forget that this guy here is David Warren, and Benetton have confirmed him as their commercial manager, which I don't know how good of a deal that is. I don't know how good David Warren is, but he looks like a respectable guy. I'm sure it's a good signing for Benetton. No, just scrap everything I was saying. That wasn't the last day. Sauber confirms Luke Bigoy as their chief designer. Now, he's not one of the best chief designers, but then again, Sauber aren't one of the best teams, and again, is carrying on this trend of Sauber. And Sauber never seem to sign anyone amazing or do anything amazing. Sauber are just such a boring, under-the-radar team, to be honest. Statement from Stewart is this, that they're, and Olivier Panis, they're going to confirm that the team... Oh, no, that was a curveball. No, it's Nick Wirth as their chief designer. So, they're retaining the services of him, which... There are better chief designers out there, but... I mean, we've seen the Stewart this year. Hasn't been that bad, so... Maybe it's for the best that they keep Nick Wirth, I don't know. And finally, Sauber confirms Pedro De La Rosa as their driver number 1. So De La Rosa, he's always been in the sport. I mean, this entire series. He's been in Arrows, he's been at... Well, he's at Jordan currently. Actually, was he with a team last year? He might not have been, actually. He might have been a test driver. I don't know, but he's definitely got a role for next year. Sauber's driver number 1. So it's a bit of a downgrade from his Jordan seat, but he hasn't really done much to prove his worth at that seat, I guess. So that's why Sauber have snapped him up. And yet that was the last of the news, finally. So we got the Canadian Grand Prix, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. As I said, my favourite track on the calendar. I mean, look at that. That is a beautiful track on a man-made island, and it's got a beautiful coastline surrounding it, and it's just a beautiful venue and a wonderful track. So let's head on into it. Okay, so hey guys, and here is practice, and you may notice that David Coulthard hasn't set a lap, and that's because, well, if I just go over to his car condition, I forgot he actually had a broken suspension unit. Let's actually replace that now. Yeah, I forgot he had a broken suspension unit, so... Hang on, what am I doing? Yeah, I forgot he had a broken suspension unit, so... He was out of the running for practice, which is quite unfortunate, but something that is worrying is even though Ferrari this year have got a worse chassis than they had last year, they don't have a Roy Bryn chassis, that's Jordan who have the Roy Bryn chassis, and they've got the Ferrari engine, which is slightly worse than the Mercedes engine, especially as we've got the fully upgraded Mercedes engine. The fact Schumacher's only half a second a lap off of Hakkinen is quite worrying. Obviously, there's more time to find from us. I mean, we haven't done low fuel runs yet. We haven't told Hakkinen or Coulthard to risk everything. So there's more time to find, but only half a second off is quite worrying considering they've got a worse chassis, a worse engine, and, well, we've got a dominant engine. And I thought with the long straights, engine performance at this track was vital. But, I mean, that's not the only thing that supports that, actually. Well, sure, Williams are in 5th. Well, Stephen Watson's in 5th anyway, and we know that so far this season, Williams haven't been that quick, but they have got the 3rd most powerful engine on the grid, the Supertec engine, and so Stephen Watson's higher than we'd normally find him, and that, I guess, is entirely down to the power of the Supertec engine, but then again, Arrows, who make their own engines and have the least powerful ones on the grid, Jean-Elise is in 15th, and Marc Gené's 19th. They're ahead of Petronas runners and Ford Zetec runners, and they've got more power, so maybe engine performance isn't as vital as I thought it would be, but as I always say, practice doesn't mean anything, it's qualifying that means something, so let's head on into it. So the qualifying results for the 2001 Canadian Grand Prix are in, and it's clear that some of the wounds that were exposed from Minardi back in Monaco seem to have not fully healed here in Canada. So let's just go through the results. Mika Häkkinen, while he did qualify down in 6th in Monaco, was able to take pole position for the Canadian Grand Prix, which isn't surprising considering the phenomenal chassis on the Minardi, as well as the fact they have Mercedes-Benz engines which are the most powerful on the grid. What is surprising is how Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari was able to qualify 2nd, beating David Coulthard by 3/10 of a second. Now while Schumacher was still 6/10 of a second off of Häkkinen, the fact that Schumacher has been able to expose the weaknesses in qualifying from Minardi, which we only really saw in Monaco, shows that Ferrari in the tech race may actually be catching up to Minardi, which we wouldn't have expected considering this year's Ferrari is actually slower than last year's Ferrari. Now as previously mentioned, David Coulthard is lining up in 3rd place, setting a lap time 1 second off of his teammate Mika Häkkinen, which is a massive gulf and much bigger than we've seen from them previously this season. The young superstar himself, Patrick Lamarie, was able to line up in 4th in the VAR, setting a lap time 2/10 of a second quicker than Heinz Frentzen in the Ferrari. Now Frentzen's poor season so far has continued as he struggled in qualifying pace despite having the much more powerful Ferrari engine. He wasn't able to overcome the pace of Patrick Lamarie. Finally, the other VAR of Giancarlo Fisichella is in 6th. Pedro Della Rosa takes a surprise 7th place in the Jordan with Villeneuve in 8th. The star from Monaco, Jarno Trulli, lines up in 9th and behind his teammate. Mika Salo lines up in 10th with Eddie Irvine in 11th. Both Williams line up 12th and 13th with Watson ahead of Schumacher. Damon Hill was down in 14th with Sarrazin in 15th, ahead of both Sauers of Wirth and Diniz in 16th and 17th. Jean Alesi in the Arrows has another phenomenal qualifying session considering the car he's in, and especially the lack of power he's got from the Arrows engine, as he's able to line up in 18th place, ahead of both Prost of Panis and Zanardi and his teammate Marc Genet, who lines up in 21st. Now what is phenomenal is how Genet in the Arrows set a lap time 3/4 of a second quicker than the Benetton of Rubens Barrichello. Now Barrichello is by no means a bad driver, so what on earth happened this session to either him or his car is a great mystery to everyone in the F1 paddock. Okay, so hey guys, and here we are on the race strategy screen. As you can see, a one-stop strategy predicted by Ross Brawn, obviously, as we saw this episode, the future Williams technical director. Now, these qualifying results, with David Coulthard being out-qualified by Michael Schumacher, is really worrying actually. I don't quite know how that's happened. Maybe it's because David Coulthard wasn't able to get any running done in practice. Maybe that's why. But still, I mean, 1st and 2nd, or 1st and 3rd rather, that's still a very good result in anyone's books, and hopefully Coulthard can get past Schumacher at the start of the race, so let's just go. Right then, so here we are on the grid, Mika Häkkinen in pole position, and for once the game actually says that the guy who qualified on pole is starting first. Normally it doesn't, because, you know, the game's well made like that. Right, now at the minute Schumacher is still in 2nd place. Actually, that is something. Actually no, I'll do it in a second. If Coulthard stays in 3rd place, then, I mean, after this lap, if he stays in 3rd place, then I will tell him to push, because I don't really want him stuck at behind Schumacher. We need to get past Schumacher and then pull out a lead on him. I'm sure Coulthard is capable of doing that. What's going here with this BAR? Anything? That's just Fisichella behind Frentzen. Nothing's happened there. Okay, I don't know why they showed that replay. As we see, oh wow, as we can see, I was looking away for a second. Coulthard was right on the back of Schumacher, so yeah, as you can see, look, Coulthard's right behind Schumacher. I mean, Coulthard might well make the move. Obviously, we've got the slight power advantage over the Ferrari. You would expect that we can make a move. Oh, did Coulthard make a move? So this is going down to the tight hairpin. Did Coulthard successfully get past Schumacher? Round the outside, does he? Come on. A side by side. Oh, Schumacher's able to defend the place. He's run out wide. Oh, he's just defended the place. Did Frentzen get past Lamarri? You would expect that from Frentzen. You would expect him in a Ferrari to get past the BAR. Wonderful move. He did the move which Coulthard failed to do, and Frentzen is now in the top 4. We're going to see if he can actually go a whole race without retiring, which seems to be what he likes doing this season. I have no idea why. He just seems to have a habit of retiring, whether it's driver error or a car failure. I don't actually know how many races he's finished this season so far, but 1, maybe 2.
David Coulthard has moved up to second position.
Right, sorry about that, I just had to have a drink. Is Coulthard going to get past Schumacher? Going down into the first corner. Come on, Coulthard. No, Schumacher's defending the place very well, but I think it's clear that Coulthard is quicker than Schumacher. We have to tell Coulthard to push, and we'll just wait until he gets past, and it shouldn't take that long. Coulthard's past already. And actually, he's catch up to Hakkinen. Right, we need to tell Coulthard to stop pushing, and well, yeah, he's right up by Hakkinen. So when Coulthard wants to be, he can be quicker than Hakkinen. But anyway, how's this going to go? Is Frentzen going to get 4th place? We need to see Frentzen actually get a decent finish for once. Well, for once this year. I mean, we've seen him in previous years do alright, but this year he's been given a chance, a break with a big team, and he hasn't made the most of it at all. And speaking of someone else who hasn't made the most, Minardi in last, but then again, Prost is arguably even worse than the Arrows. So, I mean, look, at least he's got past Panis, but moving on from that, we're pulling out a massive lead, actually, over everyone. Even Schumacher's over 30 seconds behind Coulthard. Frentzen's pulling away from... Oh, it's Jacques Villeneuve who's now in 5th place, right. So Villeneuve, in the McLaren with a Ford Zetec engine, has got past the BAR with a Petronas engine. Now, honestly, Villeneuve is actually... He's been very, very impressive this year. Barrichello's out with a driver error. And Panis is out with a tyre failure. We rarely see them. But Barrichello... Oh, This is ridiculous. Ferrari clearly favour Schumacher's car, because how often does Schumacher have a car failure? Rarely. How often does Frentzen have a car failure? All the time. It's getting ridiculous, and Barrichello, who qualified last, is now out with a driver error, so clearly Barrichello isn't very good at this track. Schumacher's out of a bargeable failure. But Villeneuve, as I was going to say, he's been the driver that this series has... No matter what car he's in, he always does well. Always. I mean, look, he's in the McLaren, it's not that good, and he's in 5th place. Oh, Fisichella's got past him, but still. Pedro de la Rosa's out of a bargeable failure. Right, okay, so... I don't know if Schumacher's going to catch up to us. Well, no, I mean, Coulthard's 38 seconds behind Hakkinen, and Schumacher's been lapped by Hakkinen. Lapped twice by Hakkinen. Okay, so when it came to the race, even though it wasn't so in practice and qualifying, geez, were we dominant in the race. Lamarri's out of a bargeable failure, Sarlo's out of an engine failure, Trulli's out of a suspension failure, so lots of big names are retiring right near the end of the race. Okay, now we've got to see our man Hakkinen cross the line to win the Canadian Grand Prix, if we can get to that point. Where's Hakkinen? There he is. Oh, he's actually right near the end, so... Coming around the hairpin just before the back straight. Well, would you call this a back straight? Would you call it the start finish straight? I mean, I don't know, because you got the little chicane before what I would call the proper start-finish straight, but my favourite track on the calendar, and it certainly has delivered a fantastic result. Another 1-2 for Minardi. In fact, I believe this is only our second 1-2, because Coulthard's either had a car failure or Hakkinen has, but that's not going to happen this time, as Hakkinen's going to win the Canadian Grand Prix.
Mika Hakkinen takes the checkered flag and wins in Canada.
Now, where's Coulthard? Is he near the end of the lap? Yes, he is. Okay, we'll see Coulthard come across the line to take second place. Now, we saw near the start of the race when we were telling Coulthard to push, he was quicker than Hakkinen. I mean, only just quicker than... Well, I say only just, actually. He caught up quite a lot to Hakkinen. He was only 7 tenths behind Hakkinen. So, Coulthard could have won this race. Again, I did say earlier on, do you want me to enforce team orders to try and get Coulthard to win the championship? You guys decided against it, which is fair enough. I completely understand that. But Coulthard's going to come around the chicane to take second place here at Canada for a Minardi 1-2.
David Coulthard has finished second.
Right, so let's just go and see. Schumacher's going to take third place, undoubtedly. Unless he retires with 2 laps to go. No, Schumacher's third. Fisichella is going to line up fourth. And then McLaren get a double points finish. Wow, that's phenomenal. It's because we had loads of failures right near the end. I mean, look, Sarrazin went out of a driver error. Genet went out of an engine failure, which, as we know of Arrows' engine situation, is critical if they have an engine failure. Alesi in the Arrows was only 1 place off the points. It's been an impressive day for Arrows, and I'd say for McLaren, actually. McLaren to get a double points finish when they haven't been, especially Eddie Irvine, they haven't been that quick this season, but Eddie Irvine got a solid point, Villeneuve got 2 points, and McLaren have done quite well considering they got Ford Zetec engines, and we know their future is with Ford Zetec engines, well, at least for the next year, but there you go, that's quite impressive for McLaren and for us. It's impressive because we haven't had a car failure this race, so that's the impressive thing there. And there you go. I mean, and who else didn't? Zanardi didn't retire. Both Saubers didn't retire, so at least, sure, both Saubers are not quick, but at least they can build a car which works and their drivers don't crash off. Minardi dominates at Canada Circuit Shield Villeneuve. There you go. Now we should have got a ton of prize money. Yes, 4.8 million prize money. Yeah, parts are heavily worn, and the tech race is still between us and BAR, is what Neil Oatley's saying. I don't know why not Ferrari, because Ferrari have got a Roy Bryn. They've got Roy Bryn as their designer, but then again, I don't know actually. Maybe Roy Bryn's not as good as he used to be, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, moving on to the next race, which is at France, Magny-Cours. Now, Magny-Cours isn't one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. I mean, it's okay, I guess, but it's not one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. But we have seen a few interesting things here. We know Fisichella in '99, when he knew he was going to McLaren in 2000, suddenly pulled out the performance of a lifetime in qualifying. And it's just been like that. This has been the track where strange things, at least in qualifying, seem to happen. So you never know, that might be the case. I mean, drivers, Damon Hill, we know he's got a contract for next year confirmed. A few other drivers have had their contracts confirmed for next year. Zanardi, we may see Zanardi come good in qualifying next time out. You never know. But just an update on the driver standings. Coulthard is still just behind Schumacher, but Coulthard will get past eventually. And now both BAR drivers are ahead of Trulli in the driver standings. Constructors' Championship, I think it's going to be a bit of a dominant season for us, actually. I mean, BAR are second, and they've got 23 points. We got 66. I think the problem is BAR are a genuine team. They care about Fisichella and Lamarie, and they care about both drivers getting decent results. Ferrari, I mean, sure, I'm speculating here and just coming out of a conspiracy theory, but it doesn't seem like they want Frentzen to do well. It's like they're trying to whip Frentzen to be the new whipping boy, like we saw Barrichello was in real life. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to whip Frentzen to just be absolutely nowhere. Ferrari do not care about the Constructors' Championship that much, because Sure, Frentzen has had a couple of driver errors, but he also has had car failures. I mean, we saw it today. So Ferrari would be ahead of BAR if Ferrari cared about their whole team. But if BAR can beat Ferrari in the constructors' standings, then that is a triumph for teamwork rather than just focusing on one driver. And that hasn't even worked because Schumacher's nowhere near the driver's title, so focusing on one driver hasn't worked for them. And constructors, no, the Managers' Championship, Craig Pollock is actually challenging my Best Manager Championship. And then everyone else is actually quite a way off. Ron Dennis, despite announcing the use of Ford Supertec engines next year as the third most highly rated manager. Don't quite know where they've got that from, but maybe, then again, I mean, McLaren today had a 1-2, no, not a 1-2, but they had a double points finish. So that's quite impressive, considering they're not working with a great deal in terms of supplied parts. They're doing all right, McLaren. They're doing as well as you could expect them to do. But anyway, next time it's the French Grand Prix. Oh God, no, there's a French test day I'm not going to go to. There's the French Grand Prix. And as I said, some strange stuff happens at that Grand Prix. It always seems to. And, well, yeah, I'll see you guys for it. So I'll see you then.